The Free Thinker Show. Ignite your mind, challenge the norm.
All right, so are you ready to dive into this Diddy case?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're taking a deep dive today into the Sha Diddy Combs case. Looking at, the latest developments, some pretty wild details coming out from this recent court hearing.
Yeah.
Diddy in a courtroom. This is not like something you see every day.
Yeah.
And then, to top it off, he's there in a prison jumpsuit, which is a far cry from his usual image, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Yeah. It's not the typical Diddy we're used to seeing.
Right.
But I got to say, even in that setting, reports say he still had this air of confidence about him.
Yeah.
It's intriguing how these cases give us a glimpse, like a behind-the-scenes look at these public figures.
Right.
We see Diddy, known for his swagger, his presence, and now he's facing the very serious world of the legal system.
And it's interesting, because according to these reports, when he entered the courtroom, the first thing he did, immediately was acknowledge his family.
Oh.
And there are even reports saying, his face lit up when he saw them.
Yeah, that's a good reminder that in the middle of all of this, the legal battles, the charges, those personal connections still matter.
Yeah.
They can be a real source of strength, especially in a situation like this.
Right, right. And speaking of strength, Diddy's legal team, they've got their work cut out for them with this case. They've set a tentative trial date, believe it or not.
Yeah, I heard about that. When is it, May?
May 5th of next year.
Okay.
But, and this is a big but, there's a strong possibility of a superseding indictment.
Right, which could really throw a wrench in everything.
Exactly.
I mean, a superseding indictment, that's a legal curveball. We're talking new charges, additional charges, could mean delaying the trial.
Right.
And honestly, just ramping up the complexity of the whole case.
Absolutely. And you know what makes this even more intense?
What's that?
The rumors, and I say rumors because nothing's confirmed yet, but there are whispers that this superseding indictment might involve minors. And if that's true, that changes everything.
Oh, absolutely. Allegations of that nature would completely change their defense strategy.
Right.
It would have a massive impact on, how the public sees this case.
It's like we're looking at a whole new ball game here.
Exactly.
Higher stakes, different playing field.
And a lot more unknowns.
So how does this impact the case moving forward, with this possibility looming?
Well, if I were on Diddy's defense team, I'd be preparing for every scenario.
Right.
I mean, they're already really emphasizing how he's cooperating with authorities. Like, he surrendered his passport, right? And he turned himself in. They want to show he's not a flight risk.
Yeah.
But if these new allegations are introduced, they're going to need a whole new game plan.
Absolutely, yeah. It's almost like they're playing chess, right? And the prosecution just made this surprise move.
Exactly, yeah. Now they have to figure out their next move.
Outmaneuver them.
And let's not forget about the sheer volume of evidence we're talking about here. I mean, 96 electronic devices seized from multiple locations.
That's wild.
Diddy's homes in Miami, L.A. Even devices taken from him at an airport.
Wait, they got him at the airport?
Apparently, he was about to board a flight when they executed the warrant.
No way.
Seized the devices right then and there.
No.
Talk about a plot twist.
That's insane. What does this all mean? We're talking about 8 terabytes of information. That is massive.
It means investigators are not messing around. They are piecing together a case, and it's all based on digital evidence. They're trying to create this big picture of Diddy's life, his communication, his movements, everything. We're talking texts, emails, photos, videos, you name it.
It's like his whole life is on trial.
Pretty much. And investigators are looking for anything that backs up the allegations against him.
So it could be anything, like direct communication with the alleged victims.
It would be.
Financial transactions, travel records.
Exactly. Anything that could support their case.
It really makes you think about how much of our lives are recorded digitally.
It's a lot.
Every click, every message, every photo.
It's all there.
It's all there.
Yeah, it really makes you think about your own digital footprint, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Like what's out there.
Especially in a legal context, right?
Absolutely.
So speaking of legal, let's talk about this bail situation because Diddy's been in jail for how long now?
It's been a while, right?
And the defense seems pretty confident that he's going to be released, especially with the conditions that they're proposing.
Yeah, they're pulling out all the stops here. I mean, we're talking about what some people call a king's ransom.
Really?
A $50 million bond.
$50 million?
Just to ensure that Diddy will be present for his trial. And if that wasn't enough, They're also proposing 24/7 security monitoring.
Okay, hold on. Break that down for me. What does that actually look like, 24/7 security monitoring?
So imagine this, Diddy, under constant surveillance.
Wow.
A team of security professionals tracking his every move,
Yo,
enforcing a strict curfew. And they have to document every single interaction he has.
so basically, like, he wouldn't be able to go anywhere or do anything without someone knowing about it?
Pretty much. And that's a level of scrutiny that most people will never experience in their lifetime.
Yeah, that's true.
But, it's important to remember bail decisions, they're not just about the money
Right.
or even the security measures in place.
Okay, so what else are the courts considering then when they're making these decisions?
Well, they're definitely looking at the severity of the charges, right?
Makes sense.
And any prior criminal history Diddy has.
Right.
But I think most importantly, they're really weighing the risk of the defendant fleeing or even trying to obstruct justice, you know?
Oh, I see.
And in this case, the prosecution is arguing that Diddy poses a significant risk that he might try to influence witnesses or tamper with evidence.
So it's a really slippery slope. It's like
Yeah.
balancing act
It is.
between Diddy's right to a reasonable bail
Right.
and the court's duty to make sure they have a fair trial. It's complicated, and you know what's really striking me about all of this?
What's the...
Is how digital evidence has become such a powerful force in shaping these legal narratives, you know?
Oh,
They
absolutely.
move beyond eyewitness accounts and physical evidence. We're talking about this treasure trove of digital breadcrumbs
This is true.
that can either completely support or dismantle someone's version of events.
And that's a really good point. This case really highlights how technology is transforming the legal system,
Yeah.
especially for high-profile individuals.
Right.
Like, it really begs the question, how do we balance the need for accountability
Mm-hmm.
with the right to privacy in a world that's dominated by all this digital information?
Right. Yeah. That's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it?
It is.
It feels like we're always playing catch up, trying to figure out these new rules for a game where the rules are constantly changing.
Exactly.
But let's circle back for a second to something we talked about earlier, the whole superseding indictment and the mention of minors, because that just adds another layer to this, doesn't it?
It really does. It's important to remember, though, that at this point, these are still just allegations.
Right.
But if they do turn out to be true, it changes the whole narrative.
Because initially the focus was all about, were these encounters consensual or not?
Exactly.
But if there are minors involved, consent is no longer a factor.
It's a complete game changer.
It becomes a legal minefield.
Exactly. The law is very clear. Minors cannot consent to sexual activity.
Right?
These allegations could lead to charges like statutory rape,
Wow.
or depending on the specifics, even sex trafficking. And those are incredibly serious charges
Absolutely.
for some very serious consequences.
So we have this web of allegations, this mountain of digital evidence, and now this possibility of a superseding indictment that could redefine everything.
Yeah. What does this mean for Diddy's legal strategy moving forward? It's like we've gone from checkers to chess to like some crazy game we don't even know the rules to yet.
Right. The stakes were already high, but now with these new allegations, it's a whole other level. And it makes you think about how these days it seems like the line between someone's public image and their private life, it's almost gone.
Totally. With social media and everything being documented all the time.
It's like there's no separation anymore.
This case really shows that.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you realize that wealth and fame, they don't make you immune to the legal system.
If anything, it's probably the opposite. Because we're seeing these two Diddys at the same time, right?
Yeah.
There's the public Diddy with his entourage and influence, and then there's the Diddy in the courtroom facing these charges.
And those two worlds are colliding.
Exactly. And in the courtroom, all that other stuff doesn't matter as much.
It's a really interesting dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it speaks to this bigger issue of accountability in the digital age.
Well, for sure.
Like we've seen in this case, our digital footprint can either help us or hurt us.
Right. Every text message, every email, like you said, it all adds up to tell a story.
And those digital breadcrumbs can be pretty damning.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's your final thought for our listeners? What do you want them to remember from all of this?
I think this case, whether Diddy is found guilty or not, it's a cautionary tale about this digital age we live in.
Absolutely.
Our actions, both online and offline, have real consequences, and that's something we all need to keep in mind.
It's a lot to think about, for sure.
It is.
But that's why we do these deep dives, right?
Exactly.
To dig beneath the surface and really unpack these complex issues.
It's about asking the tough questions.
And hopefully getting some answers along the way.
And who knows what other fascinating cases are out there waiting to be explored.
Right. There's never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Sha Diddy Combs case.
My pleasure.
Until next time, everyone stay curious.